Hi there, this is Colleen, Conscious Wellbeing, and welcome to my second installment of my Yoga Therapeutics series. This one today will focus on hips, which most of us have a great deal to say about or to feel about. Anyway, get set up. You can have 2 blocks today. Actually, we'll get mine as we start, where you can have something that approximates that. If you listen to the first installment where it was more like a preview, so I kind of give you the kind of lay of the land, and it's always helpful to just go back. It's like 10 minutes long. So today, as I said, we're working on the hips. All of our movement springs from this base, this bony base. The hips are the largest structure, the largest joint in our body. And obviously it has a lot of soft tissue to uphold it and support it, a lot of ligaments, a lot of musculature, and a great deal of fascia as well. So we'll open up today's class laying down in a Badakanasana shape, so the soles of the feet together. And you can lay down and have your knees supported by blocks if that feels good. We're just going to take a few moments to tune in. So get yourself set up. And you can also have a blanket handy today. You might need that. And again, you can go back and take this apart and use whatever has really inspired you today. It doesn't really have to be followed through in its sequential order. So let's take a moment just to tune in and tune up. Open yourself into your body. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose and out through the nose. And just release into the support of the ground. You have blocks, feel that support. Hold your outer knees together. And just begin to quiet. Quieting and releasing at the same time. The hips are the locus of our propulsion through space. So the way we feel about them and the way they feel to us really engages us with life, or rather limits us with that same kind of meeting of each moment. It's the way we explore our surroundings. So we like to keep mobility as we age in the hips. So it's a very important component of yoga therapy. And also, we want to think about when things feel tight, how that signifies kind of being prevented from going forward in life and meeting change with an open, present mind and heart. So all of those will kind of figure in our practice today in this session. So again, we always want to go back to thinking of the body as a whole instead of comprised of all of these parts. And also thinking about how the mind can come into play with, for, or against the sensations of the physical body, how tight or how flexible or how resilient our body feels on any particular day. And we can use the mind to access the body more, and vice versa. We use the body and the feeling of being open and the feeling of being resilient and flexible in the body to kind of open us up and make our life feel a little bit more flexible in our mind. So we want to go for fluidity, but we also want to balance that fluidity and that flexibility with strengthening as well. So take another few breaths here, just guiding yourself into whatever feels good or bad at this particular moment. And then if you have your blocks handy, you can kind of really bring them in, use them on the flat side. And again, you can approximate this with anything, but it really feels better with blocks. Really kind of squeeze them in towards your butt bones, so to speak. And you can come out of your Badakanasana legs and just bring your knees up in towards your chest and just really squeeze those blocks in nice and tight. Let the legs go all the way up, and then you can allow the legs to open up, and the blocks kind of catch in at a certain point. This is a great acupressure point, actually, called gallbladder 29, which really helps to open up the hips and the thighs, the groins. It's good for pain, and it also opens up all of the channels and all of the meridians, letting the energy just flow easily. And just breathe into that. You can also do this with your fingers, which I'll show you to find the point. You move from your ASIS, your bony hip point in the front, and find your trochanter, your thigh bone on the side, that kind of protrusion on the side, and then right in between, you follow that diagonal line. Right in between, there's a kind of a divot, and that is the gallbladder 29 point. So you can see that you can catch that with those blocks, and I really like the feeling of that compression, but this also gets to that point, and it helps alleviate a lot of issues that you might feel in the thigh, in the hip. And it actually even helps with the knee. So again, everything is connected. All right, and then you can stay in your Badakanasana. You can sit up now. And we'll open up the kidney line. So the kidney line is the yin meridian, which is the softer, more cooler side of energy. Correlates with the moon. You want a symbol for that energy, as yang would be symbolized more with the sun and heating. So we'll start with the kidney point right at the sole of the foot. This is kidney 1, which kind of opens up the channel right here. And you can just press here with your thumbs, with your knees softly open, and just breathe into that. Just a few more moments. The kidney line helps with the release of the adductor muscles, since it's the inner thighs and into the inner groins. And again, all of that is connected. All those ligaments can sometimes get really tight and bring about a feeling of constriction. Also, the kidney opens up the pelvic floor. And with adductors, the adductors are a bit of a conductor for engagement in the pelvic floor, and you'll probably feel that as we go through some of the movements today. So then just start with a light tap on the inside of your feet, around your ankle bones, and take that tapping up the inner calves, lightly on the inner knees, and then a little bit more. I like to use soft fists for the inner thighs, and just tap yourself all the way up in towards your groins, in the front of your hips, the lower hips, right below the bone. And you can go back down. Just really try and use the breath, again, as a piston to create that energy line. Let those points get stimulated and light up. And then take it back down to the inner ankles. And then just find a comfortable seat and take a moment just to feel that stimulation. See if it has created any shifts of energy. Breathing in and breathing out, nice and soft. Good. And then we'll start with a hands and knees position. You can put your blocks to the side. And we can take a little bit of a wider variation here of the knees and just begin to glide forward and back. Okay, just opening up the front of the hip flexors and deepening back into the hip creases, trying to find more depth. Go for a feeling of smooth movement through the joint. Ease in your breath and softness. You can start to bring the hips down a little bit further towards the floor. Be opening up the front of the hip flexors. So if the hips are all about moving forward through life, engaging with life a little bit more dynamically, the hip flexors are about guarding and protecting. So most of us, the hip flexors are pretty much chronically tight. So we'll do a few poses today that will just let them get released. So sometimes they just don't really need to be stretched, that it's more about just letting them be relaxed and be released because they're just overworked. All right, and then we're just going to do a circle. So just kind of imagine that you have a clock face that you're staring at on your mat, and you're just rotating the feeling of your hips around that clock face. You'll go in one direction and then you'll counter that direction a few times. Just try to make the movement again nice and smooth, sourcing it at the hip joint as much as possible. Good. And then just move your knees in a little bit more, and then we'll just go for tail wags. So just if you had a tail, you'll just go right to left, like you're swinging your tail back and forth or side to side. And breathe easily here. You just want to bring a little bit of lubrication into the joints, to the spine, and then begin to add a spiral, like you're spinning your tail up, and just see how that connects to the entire spine. And just let your head go with that spiral if it feels available. If not, just do whatever feels good here, and then just go in the opposite direction. Again, breathing the whole time. Just do what feels good. Bring a little bit of flexion and extension into the spine as you move the hips in a spiral. Good, and then just even out. Again, let's just sit back for a moment. Take a breath, just to notice. Just to really develop that awareness with no judgment. And then we'll come on to facing the side of your mat, and we'll go into gate pose. I really like this pose to open up through the hips and the groins. We'll start with the right foot out and press to the outside of that foot so the foot is completely grounded. And we'll start with some cat-cows. Activate your fingertips, lift the tailbone with the gaze. Keep that leg really engaged. Exhale and draw the belly in, round the spine, and press through the palms to lift and open the upper back here. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale. Lift the sit bones and widen them apart. Exhale. Tuck the tailbone underneath as you spread and widen the shoulder blades apart. Inhale. And exhale. Good. Keep that right leg really active. And then we're going to go for a twist Keep the right hand down. You can center it right in front of your face as you look down, and then inhale the left arm up towards the ceiling. Exhale, sweep it behind your right arm and reach towards your right toes. And then walk the right hand out any way you'd like. You can use a block here to rest the side of your temple on if that feels better for you. You could also hold the side of the leg and just even out the feeling of the hips. So keeping them square. It's totally dropped out of my ear. So try to square off the hips here and level them as much as possible. And then slowly come out of that. And we'll go into a side bend, reaching the right arm down the right leg and reaching the left arm over the ear. Breathe into the whole left side, opening up through the outer lateral side of your thigh, your hip, and your ribs. Good. Keep rooting the outer right foot down. Beautiful. And just go ahead and sweep all the way down. Plant your palms evenly underneath your shoulders, even a little bit further. Curl the left toes into the floor. And we're just going to pick up the hips and press the hips back. Okay, so one or both of your legs might start to bend here. Doesn't matter. And then again, look down, pretend you're following along on that clock face in a clockwise direction. Bend deeply into the knees as much as you need to do that. And also to make your movements, your circular movements here really smooth and even. And then after your third one, we'll go in the opposite direction, going in the counterclockwise direction. Keeping the feet facing forward. Good. This is one of my favorite poses to really open up the hips. I do this almost every single day before I do a fuller practice, and then bring the knees together and press back into child's pose. You can keep the toes tucked here. Let's take a moment, and then we'll go to the other side. First, starting with the cat-cow movements. You can really feel this, how it affects the inner groin of the extended leg. As you lift the tailbone, lift the gaze, pull the heart through. Exhale, round the back. Push down against the floor with your palms to widen and broaden your shoulder blades. Do that 2 more times. Inhale. Exhale. Push and lift. Opening up the back body. Inhale to open the front body. Working into that left inner groin. And exhale. And we'll go for the twist. Inhale, reach the right arm up and away from your extended leg. Exhale, go and reach towards your extended leg, threading that arm under. Again, you can use a block if you want to, or bring the head completely down. Hold if you like, but you don't have to. And just work into that twist a little deeper, turning the chest, opening up into the thoracic. Feeling what you feel. You may feel more sensation in the right side hip and groin now. Let's come back up. Walk over towards that left leg and keep the left hand on it just to guide you into this side bend towards the left. Breathing in, opening up the whole lateral side tissues and all of the muscles, the stabilizer muscles on the left side of the hip. You can get really tight, especially with all the forward momentum that we do. The body tries to create more efficiency, and what it does by doing that is that it tightens up and it thickens and shortens all the stabilizer muscles, all the muscles on this side of the hips. So we get really tight in the hips when we run too much or walk too much, or everything goes in one direction. So think about that. Think about the activities of daily life that, you repetitive movements over and over again that build into those patterns of holding, and where we need to work on. Yeah, okay. So again, we're going back to picking up the hips and pushing the hips back, and we'll do that awkward down dog. So keeping the feet pretty much where they were in that gate pose, and then just lifting the hips and pushing with the arms. But we're going to circle around that imaginary clock face 3 times, building into bigger and bigger movements, but keeping the movements really smooth. So working with the mobility that you have today, and maybe pushing into it a little bit, but not overdoing it. Just working with what you have and not resisting at all. Okay, and then let's go in the opposite direction. Beautiful. And then we'll do a little bit of a sequence here, going into some standing to really build on strengthening the hip joints. So we need to kind of load it up to create that density, to create that bone density. So we'll first start with a little bit of what I call like these slithery, slippery, kind of sinewy side squats, okay, back and forth, but make it really fluid. So just kind of moving back and forth, side to side. You can even create a figure 8 through the hips, through the pelvis. Keep your breath even and smooth. Keep your eyes soft throughout. Yeah, just working into that lubrication, deep into the joint. Really bring your awareness there to make the movement really feel that this is the source of your movement, and not working into the lower joints, the knees and the ankles so much. Let them follow the movement of the hip. Good, and then we'll turn towards one side and we'll go into a side squat, and we'll stay a little bit. So you can use your hands on blocks if you need a little bit more stability. You can turn towards a wall or use your furniture. You can be higher than this lower squat that I'm doing, whatever feels good and comfortable, where you can stay for a static hold, and we'll stay for another 10, 9, really push down through that heel, really flex the toes. That's 6 and 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And we're going to go turn towards that left leg, and we'll come up into a high lunge. Okay, and we'll do a little bit of bouncing here, so take your time. It doesn't have to be really too strenuous of a bounce. Just feel like you can give your hips a little spring, opening up the front of that right hip flexor, deepen the psoas muscle, which is the largest hip flexor. It corresponds very closely with the autonomic nervous system. It's often referred to as the fight or flight muscle. So it can get really kind of gummed up in your intestines because it is in the, deeper in the abdominal wall against the spine. And then we're going to come onto our left foot. So coming into a standing position, you're going to lift into a balance. All right, I'm just going to change the view a little bit. This is again going to work on strengthening, of course, the standing leg. And also work on strengthening the psoas. So sometimes if we sit too much, the hip flexors are often weak. So again, activities of daily life. How much time do you spend sitting, driving, which counts as sitting? And we're going to hold for another 5. You can also just do this with a bent knee. 4. You can add the arms. 3. Belly to spine. 2. And 1. And slowly start to go back, nice and slow, into your low lunge, lowering the back knee down. Good. Lifting the arms up, sinking and melting the hips, or backing off if you need to. And then taking a side bend. Right arm reaches left. Fingertips of the left hand can come down, or they can come to a block, or stay at your waist. And then bring little movements here to just even get deeper into the psoas muscle. Just letting your breath really move that energy. It's a lot of stomach points along the frontal, the deep front line of the body. Beautiful. And then sweep the arm down. We'll work into a few positions of pyramid pose. So the first pyramid we're going to have today is that your feet are going to be on either edge of your mat. So they'll be in a nice wide position. And remember, pyramid really requires that we have the feet a little closer together, so there's less distance front to back. So stabilize through the outer hips, squeeze and compact in. Bring the hands to the hips and just relax the spine down and forward. There could be a bend in the front knee if you need that. And then we're going to work our spine halfway up and hold. Really work through the navel. And then reach with just the right arm. Might require a little bend in the front leg. Use the press of the back leg and come up with that extended lift. Inhale all the way up. Look up and exhale, slow it down. Put on those internal brakes as you come down, working through the core, working front to back to front. Good. This really works on strengthening the hip joint. Now we're just going to bring the feet in just slightly. So if we're going from wide to about medium. All right, and again, start the setup with the hands on the hips and just take a fold over the front leg. Again, squeeze in with the hips, really use them. Use the push of the extended back leg and slowly start to come up. Belly to spine, to stay long and lifted. Look up, reach up, and exhale. Slow it down. Put on those brakes to come down. Nice and slow. Work into the heels of the feet. Nice. And then the final one, the final position, we'll go into more like a tightrope formation. Or maybe the right foot is right behind the left foot. Or if not, just tighten them up as much as possible. And then just try and see where you are. And then if you need to move the feet further, go ahead back to the second position that we did. And then start with the hands again on the hips and exhale and fold. Keeping the hips nice and square. The sacrum floats in a nice long line along with the spine. And then let's start to lift up halfway. Reach the right arm. This just adds a little bit more challenge, adds a little bit of a longer lever. And then really push through the feet, engage those hips, squeeze in, and come all the way up. Squeezing those hips, really compressing and compacting towards your midline. And then exhale, slow it down. Put on those internal brakes, belly to spine the whole way. And release. And just kind of wiggle the hips side to side a little bit, just to loosen up. You can circle, whatever feels good. And then open up to the side again. Go ahead and reposition your legs, and we'll just do those little slithers, slinky side to side movements, just to loosen everything up. Bring a little juice back into those joints. It's a really good way to strengthen the hips without having to overdo a lot of standing on one leg. But they're pretty good too. And do a couple more side to side, really kind of maybe get into figure 8, moving around and tracing that, and then go to the right side now into your static hold. Breathing in, really flex those left toes. Position might not work for everybody, so stay. If you need to be up a little higher, it's fine. Just working with the available range that you have. Good, and then we're just gonna turn to the side, set up for your high lunge. Good, really kick out strongly through the back heel to open up the front of your left hip, going deep into the psoas muscle on the left side. So just take a few breaths just to feel that. Go deeper. Opening up that deep front line. Working with and through all of your digestive organs. And then you can bring a little soft bounce, whatever feels good. And then going towards that standing balance, where we'll get into a little bit more strengthening. This time taking it onto the right leg, lifting the left leg up and extending out. Again, you can just hold and just work the core and work the standing leg, hip, and glute. Remember, the glute med is the stabilizer, also working at TFL on the side, right about where we were pressing earlier in that gallbladder point. Maybe the arms forward, belly to spine for the last 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and take a big step back. We'll go into a low lunge now. So again, the low lunge could be higher, the hips are a little bit further back, or if they're feeling a little bit more open, you can allow them to come down, just letting them melt. Again, bring any oscillation into this pose that feels good. Good, reaching the arms up. And then taking this side bend, right fingertips can come down or to a block or stay on your hip. Maybe float the chest into it a little bit. Remember to be a little bit more efficient and effective at opening the front of the hip. We squeeze the back. So use that glute muscle, really squeeze the back of your left glute to be a little bit more effective at opening up the front of the hip flexor. It also helps support the opening so we don't overdo it. Good. Big breaths here. And then sweep down. Good. And we'll do those 3 positions of pyramid pose. So walk the right foot out to the edge of your mat. Step the back foot in. So we take that shorter positioning. And if you need to work a little bit closer, that's fine. So you'll just kind of feel into the position that feels stable for you. But the wide legs or the wide placement of the feet are very stable. Okay, so we want to really work on strengthening the hips as much as possible. Again, we want to build that bone mass. So we need load. We need to really use our weight, our body weight. Let's inhale and exhale and take it down over the front leg. Bring your hands to the hips and maybe a little micro bend in the front leg if you need it. Squeeze the outer hips and glutes towards the midline to come up, belly to spine. And reaching the left arm up. I just barely got that in there. And then exhale, put on the internal brakes to come down. Keep having a sense of the location of your right hip as to the location of your left hip. So trying to keep the level, try to keep them even and balanced, and all the way down. Beautiful. And then we'll move in slightly, both feet. Okay, taking our second position. Inhale, exhale, fold. And feel the press of the feet, rooting down, the extended help of the back leg as you start to come up, belly to spine, working on compressing and compacting the outer hips and glutes, and exhale and slow it down, coming down. Keep a sense of the location of the right and left side of your hip. Good, both hands down, take a fold, and we'll narrow the feet even more now. And maybe try your luck at that tightrope position. And yes, it's more challenging. Okay, so just try your luck. It can be by a wall if you need a little bit more support, or have a chair in front. Let's bring the hands, and already it's a lot of balance here. Exhale and fold. So we really requires a lot of compression now as we come up, pushing through the back heel, reaching forward, adding that long lever for even more work, and all the way come up. Squeeze in. Remember, you want to stay stable. You want to work, but you want to stay stable. You don't want to fall. And start to slow it down to come down. Keep engagement through the legs and the outer hips the whole way. Beautiful. And just relax over the front leg and just kind of shake and wriggle around a little bit through the hips. Good. And then turn towards the side and widen the feet apart. Let's take an inhale, lengthen out. Go long with your gaze, and exhale. Stay long through the spine as you come down. And again, just kind of wiggle around a little bit. See how you feel. Good, and then heel toe the feet in. So that was a lot of work for the legs, the hips, and the psoas. And now I'm going to teach you a really great psoas release. So I'm going to stack 2 blocks. You can go on any height. You can kind of fiddle around and experiment and see what feels good. Be close to a wall. It's better to have some support. I'm going to stand on the blocks, my right foot, and then we're just going to completely let go. And just allow that left leg to swing, but don't force it to swing. Just let it be a little, it's kind of dangle. We're not overusing the right leg either, right? But we want it to be stable. So we can just completely let go of that whole front line, deep into the left psoas muscle. So psoas muscle starts at the end of the thoracic spine, around T12, and it crosses all the way down the lumbar spine and behind the intestines. And then it inserts right in the upper inner thigh bone at the lesser trochanter, if you want to really get down and dirty with names here. But you just really think about the inner thigh. So just feeling that really deep, strong muscle that connects the trunk to the legs. So it really does a lot. And it's the only muscle that does that. So you can see why it would be involved in or so closely tied to the nervous system. Also, the millions of neurons that are in the whole area of the gut. All right, and you can stay with that much longer, but because I'm just trying to make this a shorter, on the short side of a session, I'm just going to go to the other side. And just kind of let it swing for a little bit. Then you can let it slow down on its own and just really go deep. I like to close my eyes and just allow the whole length of that muscle to completely release. Remember, they're typically overworked, overtired, and overwrought. So we want to give it a little bit of the feeling of the sympathetic side of our nervous system, the rest, digest, the rest and relax side of our nervous system, where it just doesn't need any input. It doesn't have to figure anything out. Life is full of change and uncertainty, as the hips do really represent change. Think about how you may fight that idea of change in your mind, even on very subtle levels during the day. How much we really interact and butt up against the natural advance of change. Change and allowing for change is being more harmonious with our environment and with nature. And then we'll come down and I'll show one of my favorites to release the psoas, which is get into child's pose. Or we'll first come on the knees before we bend down to child's pose, and we'll bring our fists along either side of the navel point. And this is a really great stomach acupressure point. And we're gonna kind of take an exhale and bend over our fists. So it's about 3 finger widths from the center of the navel on either side. Remember, the points of the meridians are always symmetrical on both sides. So you can get your fists rather deep in here. Sometimes you can almost touch your spine. You can feel your spine behind if your intestines aren't full of you know what. And then bend over to your degree. You can also use your blocks again. That's why blocks are really good for this session, to kind of catch your forehead. And you can just kind of relax in this position and just breathe down into the feeling of your fist. And exhale, push your fist back a little bit more, but gently. And you can even bring a little bit of rotation where you're massaging all of the organs and maybe getting deep and back into that muscle on both sides. So stay there with that for a few more breaths, just guiding yourself a little bit deeper into it every time you exhale. And as you inhale, just really feel the pressure of the belly. So that's the motion of the diaphragm drawing down and pushing the belly out as you inhale. And exhale, the diaphragm goes back in its upward position against the heart and the lungs, and then it creates a lot more space in the navel and the abdomen. And then you can really work on bending deeper and massaging a little bit more. And again, not if you have just had a meal. Hopefully you haven't at this point. I always say, I'm always reminding everyone. All right, and let's take another inhale and slowly start to come out of that. And again, this is one of those poses that you can revisit a lot on any given day. And it's nice, especially before bed or in the morning before you eat. All right, let's come on to the back now. And we'll do Uphanasana, drawing the knees in to the chest and maybe circling a little bit. Again, just to bring about a little bit more of that awareness, really honing your awareness for the hips and the movement, always springing from the hip joint. And then let's lower the feet and go into a moving bridge. Inhale, reach the arms up and back. Squeeze up with the glutes to open the front of the body. Remember, we work the back side muscles to open and release the front side muscles, and then slowly start to lower down, scoop the belly, and we'll draw the right knee into the chest, or the left knee into the chest. And then take the knee a little wider, so it's more pointed towards your armpit. And then we're going to take half happy baby with the same foot. So now the knee points directly down towards the armpit or towards the floor on the outside of your left ribs. And then go back to hugging the knee, but letting it be more on the outside, pulling it right into your armpit, and then pressing the foot up to the ceiling and drawing the knee directly down. You can find that kidney 1.2 here. I really like to press that and see how that can also you can sense the release in the pelvic floor. It's really a beautiful point. Releases a lot of emotional pent-up energy as well. And then one more time, knee to the side, and one more time down. And then we'll take the figure 4 here, just a great pose to open up the outside of the hip and the glutes and the deeper rotators in the glutes, like the piriformis, and pull the knee in. And we can add a little bit of PFF, P and F here, where we're going to use a little bit of push-pull, create a little tension. So we're going to push the left outer ankle against the leg for a count of 20, and stay with it and keep the intensity of that. If you have high blood pressure, PNF exercises are not quite recommended, so just be aware of that. It causes a little bit too much pressure. So everyone needs to remember to soften the muscles that hold your eyes, soften your jaw. And we'll go for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then let go and pull the leg in. You can really feel how that opens up. It just kind of tricks your body into releasing those muscles, the tight muscles around the hips. Also use your exhale. Keep your feet flexed, so you protect the knee so it doesn't torque in this pose, in this shape. And then we'll go into one last pose on our back here. And this is upside down cow face. So we'll hold the outside of both feet, stack the knees one on top of the other, and pull the arches of the feet in towards the floor. And so this is working the thigh bone more in an internal rotation. So we're opening out all of those deep stabilizer muscles on the side of the hips and the glutes. Take another breath here. Pull down, squeeze in. Good, and release the feet to the floor. We'll take that moving bridge again. Inhale, lift up, reach the arms back. Exhale and draw the right knee in. Good, so pull it in. Pull it out to the side. Again, creating a little bit more width through the hips, the base of the pelvis. And then take happy baby here, pulling the knee down. You can find that kidney 1 point. Really optimizing that line, that yin energy, waking it up to bring about a little bit more of the feeling of softness, calming, cooling energy, working into that deep hip joint. Good, and then back and forth, pulling the knee in, closing it down, and then back to the happy baby, pulling the knee down, maybe a little further. And just notice how different you may be from side to side. One last time, go for it here. See if something has let go. Breathe into the relief of that. And then let's go into our figure 4. And we'll do the holding and the pushing against the leg. Okay, and sustain that for a count of 20. Keep pushing. Keep sending the inner right knee away from you as you push into that left leg. Maintain the intensity of that press. You decide what intensity really suits you. It doesn't have to be 100%. And it can be 70, it can be 60. You can start low and work up. And go for 10, 9, 8, keep pressing, 6, 5, 4, keep pressing, 2, and 1. Beautiful. And then just let that hip open. Draw the leg in. Just breathe into that right hip. Breathe deep into the glute. Back into the piriformis. If you have any sciatica, or if you've had bouts of that, often it's more or less bouts. This is just a great pose. And then the following pose, which we'll do. The cow face legs, Gomukhasana legs are really fantastic for any amount of sciatica. We'll stay here for 10. Just easing into that stretch. 9, see what lets go. Give it some time. Notice if your jaw is gripping, the hips relate back to the jaw. So when you're working on one, always notice what the other is doing. They relate as hinges. And finish that off, last breath. And then cow face here. Hold on to the outer feet. Knees are stacked. And pull in. Feeling a different position of the thigh bone now in the hip socket. Can widening the legs out to the side more or keeping them a little bit closer into the body. So again, you decide what feels better, and it might be completely different on one side than the other. Let's breathe into that stretch. You should really feel it in the right outer glute and deep underneath the muscles. Last breath here. Beautiful. And we're going to rock up and we'll do one more before we end the session. This is one of my favorites. So this is frog pose. So you're going to set yourself up. Some of you might decide you want a little bit more cushion with this because it requires you leaning on the inner legs a lot. So I know myself is very, it's yin, obviously, but it's very, it could be very easily bruised on some people. I'm just used to it now. So you're going to work into this pose by extending the knees out from the hips and creating right angles from your thighs to the knees, and the knees down to the ankles, and then the heels to the feet or to the toes. And then again, you can come on your blocks. And we'll just begin by sliding or gliding the hips forward and back a little bit, just to feel the inner groins and wake up, the adductors, wake up, say hello. And then keep it so that the hips are in line with your knees. So I'll turn a little bit so you can see. So you don't want the hips to be forward like this and then to press down. You want the hips to go right in line with your knees, and you'll feel it. You'll feel the difference. Okay, and we're just going to stay there for a static hold for 10, 9, just letting the hips melt, opening up the adductors. See if the pelvic floor base is a little bit more open, a little more at ease. The pelvic floor corresponds to fear, shock, trauma. Now we work into the kidneys. So these are a lot of some of the emotions or some of the feelings in the mind, the thoughts in the mind might bring up. We open into poses like this. Let's see what you can let go. See what still needs to be held with compassion. And that's fine. We're all at different phases in our life and our growth, and we meet challenges in so many different ways with what we have at the moment in the best way we can. We don't beat ourselves up if we don't have the answer to everything. Good, and then we're going to bring some of the PNF into this. So we're going to push down and create some resistance against the ground. So we're going to push down with the knees, kind of lift the hips up a little bit and keep that going for 20. You can do these again a little bit more often. I'm just going to do this one once. 19. So all the adductor muscles are really activated right now. And keep going, keep breathing through it. Keep softness in the face and the jaw and the eyes. Have a sense of the pelvic floor and the muscles that support the pelvic floor base. Good, that sling of muscles underneath. A lot of fascia here, a lot of communication through the nervous system. And keep it up for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. All these muscles are active. Glutes are active. 3, 2, 1. And then completely release. Breathe here. We'll stay here for about half a minute. You might feel a real letting go. I hope you do. If not, please revisit this again. This really works for me. And I could be pretty tight in the adductors at times. So this really, really helps with that a lot in my own personal practice. Again, we use the mind in any way to restore and balance and inform the body when we meet with physical resistance. And let the feeling of ease and fluidity, resilience in the body reinform and balance the mind. And play with that back and forth. Harnessing the energy of thoughts and emotions for good, right? We can shift that energy into something that's sustainable. Good. And last 10, 9, go for it. Melt, release. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And we'll slowly bring the feet together. Walk yourself back. Come into a Malasana, a squat pose. And I'll show a little bit of something you can do with blocks that I love for Malasana. So we put the blocks kind of right into that spot that we were working with before, and then start to lower down so the upper edge of the block catches underneath your ribs here. And it just kind of allows yourself to kind of melt into Malasana a little bit more. It feels like it's tractioning the joint, the hip joint, a lot more. And then it brings a little bit more ease into opening up the adductors. So I love this one. Again, you don't have to use the blocks. It doesn't always kind of have the same awesomeness for everyone, but it definitely has awesomeness for me. And then slowly come out. You can keep the blocks for a wide forward fold, which also feels really nice because it really kind of stabilizes the femurs. It presses the thigh bones really deeply back, so they really feel like they've found a lot more depth in the hip capsule. It's really calming. And you can release the blocks if you use them. And then we'll end with legs up on a surface, so you can use a chair. I have my handy dandy ball close by, so I'll just put my legs up on the ball. We'll do a liver point here. I love this point. This is a great point to kind of work through problems with resisting change. You have, if you're looking for more motivation in life, this is liver 14. And this is all about kind of letting the emotions smooth out, letting the chi or the prana, the deeper, more vital energy flows. It's kind of really work through and intersect through the body, through all of the tissues of the body. So to find this point, you're going to find the end of your xiphoid process, which is the lower point of your breastbone. And you're going to follow that out in a horizontal. And then you're going to find your nipple point and follow that down. And that is right about where liver 14 point is. So you'll feel it in a divot of space between the bony ribs. Okay. And I just want you to stay there and breathe. And see what you can let go of. The liver meridian is all about extreme emotions, along with the gallbladder, the side meridian at the side, the lateral body. So these two meridians really kind of work into gathering energy, a lot of it in the muscles, especially the side body. A lot of it is the hip muscles that we work today. So just breathing, trying to smooth out the flow of emotions, whatever's rising up for you. This liver energy is rising energy. It's energy. You can feel your face, how it flushes red when You feel the wellspring of heat coming up in your body and affecting your face, affecting your eyes, and affecting your mind. So it's a little overwhelming, overtakes the moment, and sometimes it releases right away, but sometimes not. So one of those emotions is anger, resentment, right? Which resentment is basically hidden anger. And anger really, when you think about it, is really about expectations not being met. So see if we can follow our yogic advice and work into letting go of expectations, even starting with a few of those more subtler ways that we find disappointment in our expectations throughout the course of any day. It really takes a great deal of awareness. It's a mindfulness practice. So see if you can include that as you go about your day and bring your yoga off your mat and work into where you feel that your expectations weren't met. And why did you have those expectations? And can you redo that without having expectations? Can you do that good deed or that good turn or be a friend without having expectations? Be a lover. Have a relationship, with your coworkers at your job. So having no expectations really means being more present, being more in each moment as it is. It teaches us that. And don't forget to nurture and nourish yourself with warm oil massages. I love that for the hips. Remember, we want to do circular massages on the joints and long strokes on the muscles along the bones of the body. So, and really work into the sacrum around the tailbone and the back of the hips as well. For this, turn on the steam 10 minutes before you take a bath or a shower and do your oil massage there. And then go in the bath, and the steam and the heat really helps to set it. And it's just very nourishing for the bones, for your joints. It's also very detoxifying. It draws out a lot of the impurities of the body. So I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to our next installment. And please visit me then. And until then, namaste. Be well.